I'll call the meeting of the Canby Planning Commission meeting for March 14th to order. So we'll start off with an invocation. Chris?
Father, thank you for your provision. We ask, Lord, that you would be with our government leaders, that you would give them wisdom with our troops overseas and those abroad, Lord. Keep them safe, bring them home safely, and we just ask that you'd be with us for these proceedings this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Remain standing for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing I'm going to ask for is citizen input on non-agenda items. So does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about that is not on the agenda? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the Planning Commission minutes from January 11th.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting on January 11th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will now consider a request to subdivide 8.86 acres located east of 1866 Southeast 13th Avenue into 36 lots over 3 phases. That's sub 16-01 Ralph Netter Feist 789 subdivision. Bear with me for a moment here. So this hearing will be conducted as follows. We will have the staff report, questions, if any, by the Planning Commission or staff. Then we will open the public hearing for testimony. The applicant will have not more than 15 minutes. Proponents, persons in favor of the application, not more than 5 minutes per person. Opponents, those would be those people that are opposed to the application, not more than 5 minutes per person. Neutral, not more than 5 minutes. There will be rebuttal by the applicant, not to exceed 10 minutes. Then we will close the public hearing and no further public testimony will be allowed. And then there will be questions, if any, by the Planning Commission. Then the Planning Commission will have a discussion and then we will make a decision. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please step forward when the chair calls for proponents if you favor the application, or opponents if you are opposed to the application. Proceed to the microphone, state your name, address, and interest in the matter. You will also need to sign the testimony sheet, and while at the microphone, please say your name and address prior to testifying. You may be limited by time for your statement depending on how many people wish to testify. Everyone present is encouraged to testify, even if it is only to concur with previous testimony. All questions must be directed through the chair. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable review criteria contained in the staff report, the comprehensive plan or other land use regulations which the person believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the interested parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude appeal to the City Council and the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government to respond to the issue may preclude an action for damages in circuit court. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the hearings body for an opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. The Planning Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written evidence or testimony. Any such continuance of extension shall be subject to the limitations of the 120-day rule unless the continuance or extension is requested or agreed to by the applicant. If additional documents or evidence are provided by any party, the Planning Commission may, if requested, allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. Any such continuance or extension of the record requested by an applicant shall result in a corresponding extension of the 120-day time period. I would also ask that we turn off our cell phones at this point as well. So, Brian, I'm assuming your cell phone is off and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, so are we.
Good to see you all again.
Yes, it's been a while.
We have a little bit different application in some of the subdivisions that you've seen before, in that it's really a multi-phase subdivision. It's proposed in 3 different phases, and what you have submitted basically at this point is a tentative plat or a preliminary plat, which is what you usually see, but they're actually showing how it will be divided into 3 individual phases, and it'll take multiple years before the entire thing is built out. The first slide up here in the program's been prepared by the applicant's engineer, Mr. Sissel, and it shows the site location right here. It's the 8.86 acres. It's owned by Ralph Netter, and that was part of 5 surrounding properties that came in 2014 under an annexation request. It went to a vote of the people, and in March of 2014, and was voted in. And part of a condition of approval of that annexation was approval of a development concept plan for that entire 32-acre area that included this property. And so this property, as it's coming forward with a subdivision, was bound to develop in accordance with that concept plan. And so the design and layout that's been presented has been found to be consistent in following that concept plan. And it gives a few unique issues that arose as you're trying to do individual properties, not with the entire concept plan at the same time. And so it gives you an idea of how we try to make that happen here. This is turned on its side. North is faced that way. And so looking at the subdivision is in this area right here. And there's an outlying lot right here that isn't part of the subdivision. And this is school-owned property up in this area. And this is Feist Subdivision 6 that's over here. And you can see the public streets that have come off of Teakwood Street to develop this development that has houses being built at this time. And what we're doing here with the initial phase is these 6 lots right here that has an extension of this public street coming to serve those 6 lots. And then they're also platting this portion of a new street called South Vine Street that will eventually go through the remainder of the 2nd and 3rd phase and connect with Southeast 13th Avenue. This shows the same thing turned on the side now, so you see the site here. It's vacant. It's pretty much fields, no houses on it. And here's that street, Southeast 11th Avenue. It's being extended in to serve the initial phase that's in this area here. And one more view showing you the initial phase, the 6 lots here, and the portion of Vine Street that would be final platted along with that. And the reason for its phasing is primarily that this initial phase is able to very easily be served by all necessary public utilities and streets by just an extension, basically all from the eastward from the previous subdivision that's been developed to the west. As you move into the second phase, there may be this is showing the second phase in green. They're indicating that the best way to serve this is with sanitary sewer, which is very important when you're developing and urbanizing an area, is reliant on the city constructing the Malino and 13th Avenue sewer lift station. And the timing is really great because the city is moving forward with that project and held meetings just last week confirming our desire to move forward with that and having the funding available. And so it's on somewhere an 18 to 24-month time frame to get that done. And so you could realistically see the second phase, which is shown in the green here, they could consider the connection to that lift station in a couple years. The city is using system development charges and maybe some other funding as well to build the sewer lift station. And that is one of the things that we collect system development money for, is those big projects that serve the entire sanitary sewer system. And so it's a good example of what that money goes to for each house at the time of building permit and what that goes for. And if we can get out ahead, or at least in a timing for those types of things when people desire and want to develop their land, then it works out pretty well, and the timing is working fairly well in this instance for them to take advantage of that. What they've done in the proposal on this is make sure that all three phases of the development have accepted and definitive solutions for all necessary public utility services. The only twist is that you realize the sanitary sewer isn't actually going to be in place for the latter two phases until 18 to 24 months from now. See, the review criteria, just thought I'd mention that real quick because it's really a desirable legal parameter that we make sure people understand that the review criteria for any subdivision, as indicated on page 3 of the staff report, is out of the Canby's Land Development and Planning Ordinance, Chapter 16 in particular, where we're reviewing based upon the general provisions, the off-street parking and loading standards, the low-density residential zone what this property has, the access limitations on project density, land division general provisions, those provisions applicable to subdivisions and their design standards, street alignments, and the general design standards and procedures and the application and review procedures, and also the parks, open space, and recreation land provisions. And in this particular case, with this development, we're anticipating that the applicant will be contributing system development charges for parks rather than dedicating any parks within this particular development. We talked about the initial phase is happening immediately as soon as they can get all necessary approvals. And then the second phase is the 24 lots that you see in green there. And there might have been one more slide. There's the third phase, showing another 6 lots that are up on the north end. And that phase is indicated not to happen until the Malino sewer lift station is in place, and they're able to likely secure additional right-of-way for the extension of 10th Place from the school land property that's on the adjacent. And so it's possible they could develop with a half-street plus and not have to wait for the school property to be ready to develop. And at this point, that was the latest communication we've had with the school district, is that they're likely to develop this property during the annexation process. That was what they had indicated at that time. They're not necessarily reserving it for a future school site or anything like that.
So the school is going to develop it?
The school owns the property.
Right, and they're planning on
So
developing it for themselves?
At this point, it's more likely to be developed than them to use it for school
Oh, okay,
purposes.
got it.
That was the latest communication. I didn't say that very clearly. One of the conditions of approval, when we get to that, has to do with dedicating the right-of-way that is necessary for the comply with the transportation system plan along Southeast 13th Avenue, to go ahead and dedicate the additional right-of-way that's needed to bring that up to an arterial standard with the, go back if I could get there, with this initial phase of development. And that's kind of an early on condition that we placed in order to do the multi-phase development and make sure that before the other phases happen, if we ever need to be proactive and the city take part in extending a sidewalk for a needed connection or something, we'd have that right-of-way along Southeast 13th, so we could take advantage of that. In all likelihood, improvements to Southeast 13th will not happen until the adjacent second phase actually develops, because the city isn't normally in the business of making street improvements and such. We usually wait for the adjacent development to happen. But in this case, we are asking for at least dedication of that right-of-way up front with the initial phase. Just real briefly, I mentioned before that there's a new Vine Street and that will eventually connect to Southeast 13th. As the rest of these other properties that were annexed along with this one, there'll be another street proposed north-south that will also connect with Southeast 13th. And that was discussed and talked about, the suitability of how to develop this in an efficient manner, also to meet spacing separation requirements along Southeast 13th Avenue. And if you read the details in the staff report, the applicant did a really good job of pointing out that these two streets are slightly closer together into existing streets than actually meets our current arterial street standard. But it doesn't lack the distance by very much, and it was decided at the time of annexation, when this concept plan was done, that was the best and most suitable arrangement. And part of it was also based on the fact that if you take a look at the street spacing all the way on down 13th Avenue, you'll find that there isn't anywhere where it comes close to meeting our current desired standard for street intersection spacings. So we think that that's very appropriate for what's being done. And this, of course, solidifies by approval of this phase that this is where the street's going to be. They indicated that stormwater for the initial phase will utilize, and all the development as a whole will utilize some new underground injection wells as well as some existing that are there today. And so they will need to have a stormwater analysis and approval through DEQ for any new underground injection well and the stormwater runoff. So I wanted to bring your attention just really quick to the suggested conditions of approval. And starting on page 5 of the staff report, condition number 17, dealing with stormwater, we could just end that sentence rather than the way it's stated today. The applicant shall construct DEQ-approved dry wells, period. Or you could eliminate that condition of approval 17 altogether. And they're still going, condition 16 takes care of anything that we need to deal with for stormwater management. This was actually a carryover from a previous staff report, and we hadn't noticed that. The placement of the dry wells is not accurately stated there, and there's no reason that we need to state that at this stage of the approval. So either way, we need to modify that. And then on the next page, on condition number 24, on the second sentence, we mentioned that a subdivision final plat for Phase 1, and it's more correct that we say for the initial or first phase, should be prepared in substantial conformance with the approved tentative plat.
Rather than final?
Rather than Phase 1, it'd be better to say the first phase. And we have the same issue in condition number 28, where it should say the first phase rather than Phase 1. It becomes a little bit confusing with the current wording there. And I think that that's the only corrections I wanted to point out. So other than that, staff's review of the facts and findings that were submitted with the applicants. The application here indicates that it meets the approval criteria and that we recommend that subdivision 1601 be approved subject to conditions of approval that are listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for staff? Okay. So let's move right along to the proponents. And turning on the bright lights so that rods and cones are flashing.
Good evening. I'm Pat Sissel with Sissel Engineering, 375 Portland Avenue, Gladstone. I'm here with the applicant, Ralph Netter, tonight. And when I'm done, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask to him, he'll be happy to come up. But unless you have specific questions for him, I'll probably be the only one that speaks tonight. Mr. Netter's owned the property for roughly 10 years. He bought it from the Feists, who live in the property that borders it partially to the west. Mr. Netter has got 2 sons that are home builders in Canby, and the proposal is to develop this subdivision, and his sons will build the homes in it over a number of years. They've been building in Canby for quite some time, and they've bought many of the lots next door in the recently completed Feist Edition Phase 6 subdivision. And the proposal is to name these phases 7, 8, and 9 of Feist Edition as well, just keeping with the subdivision names that have already been used in the neighborhood. I'm going to jump to this phase here. So, as Brian mentioned, sites here. It's got one street, 11th Avenue, stubbed into it from the west currently, and 10th Place partially stubs in, about half the right-of-way. And when the development concept plan was prepared for this area, it was planned that this street would come in and half of 10th Place would be built on each side of the property line, and the proposed subdivision is consistent with that development concept plan. The Feist property is here, and these parcels probably won't develop in anytime soon. The Feist family still lives on those two parcels, and they don't have any plans to go anywhere anytime soon. But as I'll show you on future slides, the whole area has been master planned so that these streets continue across here in logical manners. And as Brian mentioned, in addition to Vine Street that's proposed to intersect with Southeast 13th Avenue, there'll be a second street near this property line that will be named South Walnut Street, also will connect to 13th Avenue. And that'll give two ways out for the people living in this neighborhood out to 13th Avenue, and 2 points of access are needed in order to comply with the density versus access need section of the code as well. This whole area was this lot here in the corner, and then these two long skinny ones, and then this large piece here were made up the 5 parcels that were annexed into the city recently. Those 5 parcels and this one on the corner were part of the development concept plan that the city approved, but this owner chose not to be annexed, not to be included in the annexation. So all of these properties are now in the city with the exception of this one on the corner, but there has been a development concept plan that planned for it to be developed, how it would be served by roads and sewer at the time it does come in. So phase 1 of the subdivision will be 6 lots. It'll be the continuation of 11th Avenue. All the utilities to serve these 6 lots are available right here. And the reason that we're going with these 6 lots is because gravity sewer is available in this direction. There is sewer in Teakwood. It comes down to 13th, and it comes east as far as this line, and it's actually about 11 feet deep right at that line, but the ground falls off so quickly that by the time we brought the sewer up here and in, it would only be about 3 feet deep at this first intersection. And we looked at ways to bring the sewer up property lines, and by doing that, we could service virtually all the lots in this area at this time. But in sitting down with the Public Works Director and your Public Works Department and discussing it, they felt that wasn't the best way to go. That they've had issues with public sewer lines running up property lines. It's difficult for them, even though there's manholes in the streets, it's difficult for them to maintain if there's ever a problem. And so after sitting down and meeting with them and talking about that option of developing more lots at this time, we just decided, nope, we're not going to go that direction. It's not the preferred method. So we just settled on 6 lots for now, with the rest of the sewer for these lots in this area draining east to the pump station once the pump station is available. So that way the city Public Works Department gets the sewer system that they prefer to maintain for years into the future. So the first phase, again, would be these 6 lots. The sewer would be extended from the end of 11th Avenue, where it currently ends right here in yellow, to about this location, and it would drain back into the sewer lines go that way. Water is available here. There's a storm drain dry well at the end of that street. Franchise utilities, gas, power, phone is all available right there. So it's real easy to extend the street. And there's currently a hammerhead turnaround for the fire department on that lot in Phase 6. That'll go away, and this street will be built as a fire department turnaround with this current phase. Also, as Brian mentioned, dedication will occur along 13th Avenue. No improvements would be done in this first phase, but the dedication would be done. So that is Phase 7. With proposed Phase 8, Vine Street would get extended to intersect with 13th Avenue. 13th Avenue frontage improvements would be completed, including widening curbs, sidewalks, drainage. The water line, there's a 14-inch water line in 13th Avenue, and there's a 14-inch water line in Sequoia Parkway. Ultimately, those will connect. So the 14-inch water line would be extended from where it ends right here across this frontage and to the end of the property, and then it would continue on as other properties develop farther east. The interior streets would be developed. This piece would be developed as well. So, and that phase, which we're calling Phase 8, would be contingent upon sewer being available in this direction. Currently, there's a dry sewer line that's put in Sequoia Parkway that runs from about here, flows downhill to here, and ends. There's nothing that goes into it. There's nothing connected to it, but it was put in by the city in as a planning for these developments to happen someday. I'll go into a little more sewer detail here in just a moment. First, I want to talk about the third phase. Phase 9 would be these 6 lots that face 10th Place. 2 items are contingent for this phase to happen. One is the sewer is available to the east, the pump station's operational. The second one is we just felt that because the center line of the street was placed on the property line, that having just a half street, 17-foot wide pavement was too narrow to get access to these lots. If we shifted this right-of-way farther south, probably eats out a whole row of lots or a number of lots out of this phase. So we didn't really want to shift it south. Plus, this is consistent with the development concept plan. We had it along that property line. We want to keep it there. So we're saying that this will happen at the time that there's additional right-of-way available from the school district property. It could be a dedication of maybe 10 feet from the school district. Maybe they'd be willing to dedicate 10 feet. Maybe they would be developing the property, and it would be the full street would get built, or maybe they would sell it and it'd be developed by somebody else. But at the time that there's adequate room in the city's mind for there to be two-way traffic on this street, that's the time that those 6 lots would be developed. And again, Mr. Netter's not looking to have all these lots right away. Therefore, his sons to build homes. If he can get through Phase 1 and Phase 2, that's 30 lots. That'll keep him busy for several years, probably. You can see with Phase 3, or I'll call this Phase 9, as I should be calling it, we developed, with the development concept plan, this is how we showed these streets would be developed on the school district property. The school district wasn't involved in the development concept plan, but we went ahead and showed how it would likely be developed anyway as part of that plan. And so Vine Street would continue north, intersect with 10th Avenue, and 10th Avenue would continue east. Taking that out further, this is the rest of how the streets were planned out in this development concept plan area. All these streets would continue east and connect in with a new north-south street, which I believe we call Walnut, and then loops through here to Willow Street would occur. And you can see how access was made to this parcel in the corner. This area up here where the trees are, there's approximately a 1 acre park proposed on the Stoller property in that corner. And so that's why there's no park dedication being done in this subdivision. This subdivision will just pay park SDCs. There is a little park area right here that nothing's ever really been developed on. And there's this park area here that's planned. And then you've got the school property up here, which a lot of people use as park. And you've got the bike trail all along the east side of the development concept plan area here. There's two options for the sanitary sewer. Getting, as I said, there's sanitary sewer, a dry line right here in Sequoia Parkway. There's two ways to get there. One is to secure easements from the neighbors to bring a sewer line through an easement down following the future street pattern and to come out and connect. There's one stub located right here, and there's a second stub located right here that were provided in developing. Depending upon timing of everything, that's one option. In order to go that route, we would need to get easements from the three property owners. The other option would be, and this one's a little tougher to see because of the writing, but would be to bring the sewer out to 13th Avenue and down 13th Avenue and connect to the city-installed sewer at that point. Bigger picture, our project is here. This is the general location for the sanitary pump station. It's down at the intersection of 13th and Milano Road. And we understand, okay, so the developer will be responsible to bring the sanitary sewer from the project to the city main in Sequoia Parkway. The city project will then continue the gravity main from Sequoia down to the pump station and then install a force main likely on this side of the railroad to come back up to the city sewer that drains out to the north in Sequoia Parkway. Questions about that? I see you.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I think I counted 4 right angles that go, on the first drawing that you had there. Is that correct? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem to me to be, less expensive. I'm not a big fan of right angles when it comes to sewer stuff, but I would think that just coming straight down and then like that would be
Through 13th Avenue?
Yeah, which is the second the option, right?
Yes.
What is the preferred option?
I would say this would be the preferred option because it could be done without any impact to 13th Avenue. To put the sewer line down 13th Avenue would mean construction traffic out in the middle of 13th Avenue, disrupting traffic. It would mean more expensive backfill, pavement repair, and it may be the only option. It is an option because it's public right-of-way. But if this option is available, if this were all being developed at one time today, all these properties, these lots along here would drain to a sewer line in this street. And so would, there'd be a row of lots on this side of the street and a row of lots on this side of the street, and they would drain to a public main in here, as would all these others. There wouldn't be a need for a sewer main to be installed in 13th in a perfect world, because these lots would drain this direction.
They-
So,
They would drain for the gravity, so gravity would pull it, take it down, I guess that would be south, right? Is that correct? And then you're going to
Yes.
turn around and pump it back up in the other direction, north?
yeah, so the gravity sewer will run east down 13th Avenue to the location of the pump station. The pump station, and this pump station is not just for these lots. It's here to serve this whole industrial area as well. It's been planned for a long time. I just wanted to make that clear as well.
Okay.
I think the city's just been waiting for a project to come in that triggers the need for the pump station. There's no need building a pump station years before it's needed. And now's the time when this pump station is needed. This land is already in the city. Mr. Wygant is here tonight. But this land was annexed quite some time ago, and for anything to be developed on it, it will need this pump station to be installed as well. But the proposal is basically to drain down this way to get to this pump station, and then through a force main, it could either come back up 13th Avenue to the gravity sewer, or it could come up this side of the right-of-way, railroad right-of-way to the gravity sewer and then drain out. From what we've been told, Public Works prefers this direction because, again, it's not, they're able to build it without having to get in 13th Avenue and disrupt traffic and do so much pavement repair. So the sanitary sewers, it's a little bit of a wrinkle. It's not available today, but Public Works has said that it will be, that pump station will be up and operational in 18 to 24 months.
And that's when your Phase 8 will theoretically begin?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would assume that that subdivision could not have a building permits until the pump station were operational. And similar with Phase 9. So, as far as the other utilities, water's available. It's available in, I'm back up here. There is water available in 11th Avenue, in 10th Place. It's available in, there's a 14-inch line out here in 13th Avenue. Franchise utilities are all available right here and right here, so gas, phone, communications, all available. The only thing out of the ordinary is the sanitary sewer. And again, there's two different directions we can go. And what we're telling you is we'd prefer to go across private property, but that's up to us to get the easements to do so. If we can't, then we'll go out to 13th Avenue, because that option is available today. We've shadow platted the area. You can see how we anticipate that that with future development of tax lot 800, there could be room for an additional 6 lots to be developed in this area. There's a little leftover piece of our subdivision that we're planning on. That leftover piece could be combined with tax lot 800, and there'd be room for a total of 6 lots in that area. We've shown how if the school property, it's currently R1, it's zoned as residential, for residential development, so we've planned it out with how lots could be laid out in that subdivision. These lots, Feist Edition Phase 6, this was recently just platted. I don't expect you'd see anything that would happen with the Feist parcels for quite some time, but in time, these roads will connect through. With this phase, we've master planned street profiles for all the new streets through this area. shown the city how all the streets would be laid out. Apologize for the didn't come through too clearly. Anyway, I think that, as Brian mentioned, you know, the issues have been really worked through the development concept plan. That's why we went through that big process during annexation, was to lay all this out and to try to hammer out all these issues before annexation occurred, which we did. And this plan is just, now we're coming before you trying to be consistent with what you've already seen and you and the city council have already approved.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions for me?
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents? Mr. Netter, I want to congratulate you on your keeping your sons gainfully employed. It's a goal for all of us with children. So, any other proponents, any opponents? Any neutral parties? Okay. So that's it. Then I will close the public hearing. And so we will have any more questions from this body, if you have any questions of staff or the applicant?
Not.
Why are you looking at me?
I just explained to you.
have
I just,
Post-it notes.
yeah, you have post-it notes, yeah, there you go.
I did have one question, and it was answered, was the spacing on the roads, because the third road, which is Sequoia, the overpass road, is really short, but it sounds like that was already dealt with when the master plan went through.
Yeah, and I think Pat had mentioned we had to weigh, I don't know if you call them opposing, but when you have various regulations and standards, they don't always jive, and in this case, we had to pick the number of lots in this total annexed area really demands two means of access onto the arterial street to meet that ordinance provision, yet the other ordinance provision that says they should be separated by 660 feet, we didn't quite meet. And so we had to balance that when we were doing the concept plan.
And there's something else in here, Brian, that was showing us what the differences were on the rest of the streets that are on 13th, and they're all in the 400s. I mean, there's only one or two that's even close to the right number.
So we're certainly moving in the right direction of keeping a good spacing between the proposed streets. And I think it'll be quite an improvement in this section of 13th over what has developed already. It just helps over time when traffic really gets heavy. There will be reduced congestion when you have fewer intersections.
Okay, any more questions? Then we will move along to our making a decision. Any discussion on this? Hearing, any more discussion? Okay. So then I will entertain a motion to approve file number sub 16-01, Vice Edition Phase 7, 8, and 9. And if we want to take a look at the two suggested changes in the report, instead of saying Phase 1, that it would say first phase. That would occur on condition number 24 and 28.
And a potential change to condition 17.
That's right. Tentative. Okay, so anybody care to make a motion for that? That would be on page 11 of your packet here. page 11 and 12. So 17 is on page 11, and then 24 and 28 are,
You're saying that wasn't even needed, right, Brian?
I don't think it's needed at all.
I was reading it.
That might be the easiest way
It's-
to deal with it.
to eliminate
Just
it?
eliminate 17.
17.
Let me give that a go.
Why don't you give that a go,
All right,
Mr.
Mr.
Hensley?
I move that we approve as written with the amendments of the first phase being put into number 28 and 24 and the deletion of number 17.
Any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve with the conditions, conditional changes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. There you go. Look at that. Let's see. My finger's working. Okay, we'll move along to any new business. There is none. So we will have final decision on, these are final written findings of previous oral decisions. There's no public testimony. Mr. Hensley.
I move that we approve sub 1601. That's final.
With the same
With the same
changes.
Same changes, yes.
Right.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Could
Opposed?
you pass that to the chair for signature tonight?
Okay. Thank you. Any items of interest from the staff? It looks like we are not going to have a meeting.
Actually, there was a revised agenda that says we will have a meeting on the 28th of March.
I'd already scheduled some vacation time because of the original one. Jeez.
It's an opportune time for us to take care of change to the Historic Review Board's membership change. And so it's a very quick and easy amendment. Shouldn't take long at all. That'll expedite it getting through to the council.
Okay. Then we will have a meeting.
Other than that, staff was just mentioning that this is our important week or two to be finalizing next fiscal year's budget, getting that back to the finance director as they hunker down towards the end of this month and trying to prepare a new budget.
Does that mean this is when we should ask for a raise?
We're getting a raise?
Maybe we'll give you
25%.
sparkling water for
What we're getting right now.
Why not 30% raise?
How about 100% raise?
Okay.
Okay.
100% of nothing.
That's
is
not a
nothing.
problem
Yes.
There you
whatsoever.
go. Perfect. Okay, there you go.
Thanks.
All righty, then, any items of interest or guiding from the Planning Commission that we want to direct the staff? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Hensley.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.